Hi, welcome to Atlassian Tech TV. My name's Chris Mountford and I take you inside Atlassian to show you how we make software. In this two-part episode, I interviewed Confluence developer Denise Unterwurzacher. In part one, we discuss career paths into technology and the status of technical support. What does it take to be a great support engineer? What skills and talents should support engineers have? Denise has great experience in support. It's safe to say she has definitely tried turning it off and on again. In part two, we tackle a big topic and an important one: women in tech. Denise has some surprising insights on this and shares some of her experiences from previous workplaces. As a man in tech, one thing I'm sure of is that addressing the issues faced by women in tech needs to involve listening to what women say about it. Which reminds me, I'm listening to you. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues. Here's Denise. While I've got you here, I wanted to ask, this is a topic, I guess, that a lot of women in tech are asked about. It's the topic women in tech. You know, what's it like? What do you see? I mean, because I think it's pretty obvious the benefits of having diversity. You know, the idea of having the kind of representation that we want in democracies when we have this, everyone can vote and then therefore their interests are represented. And in each industry sector and technology there's a conspicuous absence of women. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of discussion in the industry. Why is that? How can we fix it? And I mean, obviously not just an absence of women, but diversity in general. We want to have a mixture of people, so we get a mixture of all of those sort of specific talents and perspectives.
Definitely.
How do you see it?
I mean, it's kind of a difficult question, I suppose. I think, I've been in tech for 13 years now, right. Or more. And I think it's something that I really ignored for a really long time. And I think a lot of, especially young women, do. It's easy to, it's often not overt that there are sort of problems with women in tech.
Right.
But, I was used to being the only girl in the entire team and, just kind of one of the boys. And,
right.
Which is fine. And that works for some people and it doesn't work for others. And I think I was actually talking with another girl at Atlassian recently, and she mentioned that, even though she's happy to be one of the boys, maybe it actually makes other women less comfortable, to even attempt to join technology. So, she sort of sees it as her part of her responsibility to be welcoming to the other women as well, and that right. I think it's very important, and I think it's something that a lot of women forget about or just aren't really aware of. That actually the way that you're presenting yourself, I suppose, can actually invite or not other women into technology, which is sort of an right. interesting point of view. And I suppose I've always kind of been happy to be one of the boys, and I think I spent probably maybe 6 months at Atlassian before I'd wear a dress to work.
Oh yeah.
And the day I did, somebody went, "Oh," when I walked in.
Right.
And so there's that kind of sometimes there is just a bit more you're sort of singled out a little bit more or made to kind of feel the difference a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah. So if you're the only one, then you're it's sort of, maybe it's a token thing, or maybe you're we've got the woman here, or whatever what do women think about this? I mean, I'm almost doing it now. We're talking about
I'm obviously the representative of all women.
Yeah. So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So that was an interesting point you brought up. The idea that the women who do come in and the first sort of, or the minority women in a group that's over dominated by men are maybe they're the ones who mind less about it them being treated like one of the boys, or oh no, that's Denise, she's just like one of us, like she wears jeans and t-shirt to work every day too. And then one day when you're wearing a dress, it's like, oh, hang on, maybe you're not, maybe you were different all along.
And it does make you kind of hyper aware of being the outsider, I suppose, when people react like that, even though they're not intending to.
Right. Yeah. So
we would hope that all of the bias, or most of the bias that we have around here is unconscious. That
yes.
you know, I mean, I'd like to hope that all my biases and sexism or whatever it is unconscious. You know, I wouldn't want to. I'm assuming it's there, and because but
I mean, I think it is for everybody. Everybody has bias and everybody has privilege, and it's very difficult to be without all of those things. You just have to be aware of it. When it does come up, if someone makes you aware of something that you've done, or you just have to be able to step outside of yourself for a moment and see it.
Empathy.
And exactly, and understand where it comes from, and I think that's the key is, if somebody tells you that something has upset them, you have to believe them.
Yeah. Even just take it at face value.
Even if you can't see how they could possibly be upset by it, you just have to understand that their life is different to yours.
Sure.
And you have to believe it, and then you can, everyone can improve. So.
Yeah,
and that goes for women as well,
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I do think about what can I do, and how can I change how I'm thinking or keep my mind open to help this. But also, I guess I hadn't really thought about that point of view you mentioned, where how women act does impact how invited the next wave of women might feel.
Definitely.
So if we want the next wave, then what does it mean? What sort of things do you consider? I mean, it's not just wearing a dress, or is that a part of it? I don't know.
I don't know. I think part of it is actually how you present yourself, and I think humans just make assessments based on what people look like, and we can't help it, and it's part of what makes us very adaptable and quick. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think that's part of it. I think a lot of the time in earlier years when I was in IT, especially in sort of sysadmin type roles, there's often one woman, and she's used to being the one woman in the team. And if you come in as another woman, I've actually had a couple of women, be very unwelcome and very
I'm
sort
the
of
woman
hostile.
around here.
Yep. Yeah.
Alpha woman.
I'm the one of the boys, and you're not invited. So I think often a lot of the time women in tech can be their own worst enemies.
Okay.
And I think, a lot of the time it's about really, being inviting and welcoming, and, don't segregate yourselves, don't have, the girls club kind of thing. But do be inclusive and,
So, because there are, I mean, not that you're saying that these are a bad idea, but there are a lot of, more than there used to be, events for women in tech, so women who code, the Geek Girls Dinner, there's a number of them that I see on the calendar. We host some of the events, and do you think that those are a part of?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I really think that they're necessary and important. I actually had a really long conversation with some friends about this recently, and a lot of people sort of said, the more we segregate ourselves, the more we're making it a problem. And I think that that's not true. I think that, there is a problem already. There is a problem with the representation of women in tech. I think that's not a secret. It didn't, it hasn't come about because of women in technology events, and women in technology events don't make it worse.
Mixing the cause and the effect.
Exactly, and having these kind of events is not going to, it's not going to make it worse, and not having them, ignoring it is not going to make it better. So it's not going to, this problem isn't going to go away on its own. I really hope that in, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know how long, but I really desperately hope that someday people look back and wonder why on earth we had women in tech events, because it just seems absurd.
Right.
But we're not there yet, And
we don't have men in tech events so much, do we?
No, but that, well, I mean, we do. It's called technology.
Yeah, it's just called the tech event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I
but
think,
it's not in the name, because it's not seen as being
it's
a deficit or anything.
Exactly. And I think, the more that we can make technology an inviting place for women, the more women will actually have in technology, and the better things will get, and the more it will be evenly balanced, and the better it will be for everyone.
Because I mean, this is just me thinking aloud now. Because we want the change that brings in technology. We want technology to be pushed in a direction that is representative of society. We don't just want to. I mean, not just about women, but I am really interested in promoting technical literacy and sort of involvement in being a maker in the technology space, or being able to use the tools, so that those individuals, the whole society, can be represented, and to sort of the haves and the have-nots won't be so starkly divided by this technical skill.
Exactly. And I think at Atlassian especially, we're making software to advance humanity. We're making software for the world.
Right.
We can't do that if we're represented by, 30-something white male gamers.
No, exactly. Yeah. All right. So, and do you go to any of these Women in Tech events, the sort of coding?
I have. I'll definitely be going to the Women Who Code one now that I technically code again.
Right.
I have, most of the time, the reasons why I haven't gone are just basically time, but I also sort of, for me personally, I don't feel the need to seek out the women in technology to make myself comfortable here. I'm comfortable here anyway. But I do think, it's important to be there and to represent the women who are comfortable here.
Right.
So I think...
And to be there for those ones who come in and who really want there to be more women around.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, I mean, I feel, I see it too. I mean, sometimes, if there's all men and it's a tech thing and then one woman comes in, especially if she's attractive, men are going to be like, whoa, hi, who's that? Whereas if a good-looking guy comes in, maybe like if just...
But if there's often one guy at the Girl Geeks events, and and that it's sort of the same thing. It's kind of a bit of like, well, what are you doing here?
Yeah, right.
know?
So see, that's what I just assume that I'm supportive of these events, the Girl Geeks events, and I've been told that men are. It's not that they're going to be stopped at the door.
Of course not. Yeah.
So, and there's maybe sort of people who are contributing, or whether they're delivering the pizza or whatever, that they're there to sort of assist with the event in some way. And because there's so many men in tech, and it's hosted at Atlassian, and there's Atlassian sort of equipment around and whatever, that they're going to be men around. It's not like an exclusivity thing.
Yeah.
But how do you see the should men not come as a point, do you think? I mean, because I've sort of assumed that I shouldn't go in general.
Yeah. I'm torn on that. I think I don't think it's good to exclude anybody from anything, for any kind of simple reason of gender or race or anything like that. I think, some of the speakers that you have and some of the things that you learn and what you get out of it can be really beneficial, for men and women.
Yeah.
Having said that, if Girl Geeks was 90% men, it would lose the point of it, you know? So I think, I don't know, I think it's probably a personal decision for people to make. And, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with men turning up, to an event like that. I think, if you're sending a delegation, to represent Atlassian.
Just to monitor, make sure that the kingdom is not overthrown by the enemy.
Exactly. But, I think, you have to kind of, I'm trying to think of what I was trying to say.
Well, it's a balance, isn't it? You were saying there's benefits and there's costs.
And I think, I don't think there's anything to be gained from specifically excluding people. But then again, I don't think there's anything to be gained by having, a completely, 90% male and 10% female. So
yeah, fair enough. So, anything else you want to talk about on that front? I mean, we talked about the events. We don't have to cover this, but what has your experience been? You've painted it in a fairly positive light. That you don't mind being one of the boys, and that's probably one of the things that where the first woman in a team that's otherwise men would be, most comfortable if they took that approach, and then having that sort of token woman in the team is sort of that's a state, that's a sort of transition state. We don't want it to be like that. We want to have,
of course,
there's more women than men, right? So you want to get it evened up.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're heading towards that now. I think there's few places where there are just only men, in teams or in companies or in kind of particular areas of technology. I think, there are sort of token women in there now. And I think we're kind of transitioning to the point where there are more women, than just the one solitary, one of the boys type. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're heading.
So is it just that unconscious bias stuff where people will sort of react if you wear a dress, or they'll be like, they'll say something. What about the language? They say, hey guys, and girls,
You know, something like, you know, is that a thing?
Yeah,
is that
that's a thing. Yeah, sometimes they'll look at you and go, is it okay if I call you guys? I've had someone ask me that. Yes, it's okay.
You're not going to punch them?
Generally not. But, you know, I think it's good that they're being aware of it, I suppose, but at the same time, it's sort of, it is just singling out the difference, you know, and it makes me feel hyper aware of the fact that I'm the one that changes how you talk to people, and you know, I think I don't want I don't want people to be uncomfortable because there's a woman around or to be watching what they're saying.
But some of that's not your fault, right? I mean, if you're the first one there, then that's just part of that's reality putting you all in a situation, and I mean the second and third, and then once things even up, if we can get there. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a bigger problem in that if there is a difference in the way that you talk to people because they're men or women, you know, maybe that's something that you should look at yourself. You know, if you would talk to men in a particular way and then you would never talk to a woman that way, you know, maybe that's something to, you know, think more about. Yeah, you know, if you have to change your behaviour so dramatically when you're in an office type environment, you know, because there's a woman around, how are you behaving in the first place? Yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it? Because on one hand, there's I try to as my kind of approach, I try to kind of think, well, it's just about listening to women and having more women. Those are the main things, you know, and the rest is, well, just start with that anyway. and so I have a hard, you know, like I try and listen. You know, I think I can probably improve on that. So some women have said, have emphasised things. They've said this to me on this topic of things like, look, gender and sex is not relevant. It's not an issue. It's not a thing that we need to bring to the surface. Can't we just all forget about it? And then, you know, but also don't be sexist. She's not saying she's not saying be sexist. She's saying let's cut all the sexism, and then just because what sex someone is irrelevant. Let's just get on with the coding, and that makes total sense. But on the other hand, you've got the whole if the purpose of representation is the differences that are brought in. I mean, if there's no difference, why bother with the representation? We assume there's an element to technology that women will bring in, and that will change it, and that's the point. We want it to be changed because we want them to have their
But
you know?
I think that's very true. You know, there is something that women will bring to technology that men won't.
What is it?
I don't know.
We'll all just have to find out.
Exactly. But there's something that I, as a human, will bring that you will not, and there's something that you will bring as a human.
I'm not a human. My alien race is contributing one thing.
Oh, no,
I'm a robot.
No,
go ahead.
You know, there's some things that you will bring with your life experience that I won't, and vice versa. And I think, you know, it's just about the more different people you can get, you know, the more different experiences and upbringings and, you know, perspectives and stuff you'll have. And, you know, I think it's impossible to quantify what women are going to bring because you can't quantify the difference between people, really. But I think that, you know, the more diversity you have, the more different life experience you have, and the more, you know, things will change.
Well, we were just talking about it in the context of support culture and development culture and the different skills that are used, and that the cross-pollination is actually where you gain maybe transformative benefits. So it's probably the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you're not on Twitter. You are on Twitter. All right. No. So we won't get
Sorry.
people to. That's okay. Thanks again for speaking with us.
No problem.
I'll definitely get you back.
Cool. Thank you.
See you.
Cheers.
That's a wrap for another episode of Atlassian Tech TV. Please subscribe and follow us on Twitter. We've also got tons of stuff on our blog at developer.atlassian.com.